We're live.
That was fast.
Yeah.
Did we get any music or anything?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Scott from Aristocob.com here.
Seth from SethMarkwood.com.
Together, along with you, who I hope is in the chat room. The three of us were Markwood Men's Breakfast Club. Welcome back once again. Good morning, boy.
Good morning or good evening. It is definitely not morning these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's morning sometimes, but
it's morning somewhere.
It's morning somewhere and sometimes.
Morning in America.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. We've tried to avoid complaints about the weather, but man, was it ridiculously hot today. I had a webinar that was scheduled to run 2 hours today, and I was doing it for a customer of ours, and the customer had brought their executive team together. Mm-hmm. So it was an important webinar, and they fumbled and stumbled for half an hour before they were finally able to get everything on the big screen in their conference room and everything. So that's now 2.5 hours that I'm sitting out here as the sun is baking me.
Oh, yeah.
And when we got done with that meeting, I got up and the thought ran through my mind, why is my shirt so heavy?
Oh.
It had 2 pounds of sweat in it. It was unreal. So, we got the not only is it hot, but it's humid. And so we've been having these heat alerts, and it was like 90 some degrees, but it felt like 109. And I was enclosed in a glass cube.
Yeah, it is. The couple of times I went outside today, the heat is definitely oppressive. That's for sure.
All right.
Come on.
I thought I filled this. All right. You know what? I'm going to go get.
Did you purge it?
I don't know. Talk for a minute.
Oh, okay. Hey, guys. Good evening. Good to be back with you all. Last week, I hope you guys watched that while Homer was talking at length about Shopsmith and bandsaws and little magnetic doohickeys. I don't know if you saw his channel, My Growth Rings. He posted a video of the little balancing tool that he was talking about last week. So, since he has just left us here, last week, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, I was in Paducah, Kentucky for the entire week. Started Saturday, drove the 10 hours. So normally, if you're driving a normal vehicle, it's less than that. If you're driving a 14-foot box truck, are you kidding? Useless. Useless.
All right, now I'm purging. Woo.
There's stuff in there.
Yeah, there is.
Maybe your striker's gone bad.
No, perfectly good striker. All right, we're going back in.
All right. My goodness.
I expected you. See, if you were my age, when I sat back down, you would have said, "We've secretly replaced Scott's coffee with Folgers Crystal."
I'm not your age. So what would normally be an 8-hour drive becomes a 10-hour drive when you're driving in a 14-foot box truck. My brother-in-law, Isaac, who was on the channel a couple weeks ago, good call about the match, about sticking to matches. Brother-in-law Isaac does construction work and is trying to figure out what to do right now, while my sister-in-law is in a bit of a limbo situation where she's looking for a hospital where she can find a job. She's an audiologist, and she is she's kind of in this position where she's just recently graduated and is trying to find a hospital, university where she could have a job. And so, he doesn't want to start another business right now, which he has done in the past, construction business. And he doesn't want to do that because he may have to leave. And so his truck, the differential on his truck went bad recently, and he decided to buy a box truck because it will make it possible for him to have a portable, like a portable workshop. and also make it easier when they do eventually move, for them to be able to move across the country. So he bought this box truck on a Thursday, got it licensed on Friday, and Saturday he and I were on the road to Paducah, Kentucky. So when you creep over about 64 miles an hour, it starts trying to buck you out. And so it was not great. It was a slower trip than normal. So our nerd says that's why I stick to matches.
Yeah, well, okay. You know what I'm using right now? Brand new
Nice picklebick.
pickle bick. Yep.
Always stick with Bic.
I got to disable the child-proof thing on it. Yes.
Now, Austin, we did not have any bourbon. Didn't have any opportunity to visit the Bourbon Trail. I don't think we got very close. The path that we take from here to there, so Paducah is on the far western side of Kentucky. And so the majority of our drive is like cutting across east to west Tennessee, and then just kind of peaking up for the last hour and a half into Kentucky. And so we're hours away. I've got a buddy who was asking if we could visit a couple of shops and pick up some bourbon that's hard to get outside of the state. And the nearest shop was about 97 miles from where we are. So nowhere near there.
Yeah, you did make a stop.
Oh, yes, but not for bourbon. And not in Kentucky. So we did stop at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. That's an obligatory stop because we drive right through there. And my brother-in-law, was recently his birthday, and his dad wanted to get him a gift. And so he said, pick out a good knife for yourself. And so we spent 4 hours there wandering around.
So you only saw half of the store.
Yeah. We saw just about everything there's to see.
So if you've never been to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, if you've been to a place like Bass Pro Shop, just a big outdoors place, imagine a place that's a little bit larger than that.
Oh, now it's twice the size. No, I don't think you've been. They've expanded it. It's now two Bass Pros.
Mostly knives. There's a kind of a basement, a walkout basement area that is kitchen supplies. So if you want to get culinary knives and doodads that you'd find at a kitchen store, that's what's down there. But then there's several floors, and it's just beautiful, neat interior. It's like an old hunting lodge kind of a feel. But blowguns and crossbows and swords and knives and knives and knives. And part of it's a little bit of a knife museum. It's a really cool place.
So I don't know the last time you went, but they have expanded it by about a third since probably 5 years ago. And so it is massive. Now it's absolutely.
So I've been there since you can go south of the what used to be the wall with the swords, and you pass through, and there's like a drop down into the lower floor. And I've been there, if that's the space you're talking about.
No, there's even bigger than that. Yeah. The back where kind of some of the like terrible knives used to be. The ones that you see on late night TV.
Yes.
The commemorative knives. That whole area has been pushed back to at least another section, if not section and a half.
Wow.
So it's gargantuan. Austin rightly said IKEA for sharp blades. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good way to describe it. Yeah. So it's really, really great. And right next to the IKEA, right next to Smoky Mountain Knife Works is a lodge shop. Right next to that is a DeWalt.
That's Lodge Cast Iron.
That's right, tool shop. And so we walked out the door of Smoky Mountain Knife Works 4 hours later, went straight across the street to the DeWalt and other tool shop, which was amazing. It was a great place. Not nearly as big, but so after 4 hours we wound up. So Isaac, he is brutal to knives, and we asked around. His father wanted to get him a Benchmade, and we asked around what would be a good knife that you could beat the snot out of and it still maintain an edge. And the guy directed us immediately, without hesitation, to a Kershaw blade. And Kershaw is now making two of their knives with a newer style of American steel. I don't know the exact name of it. It starts with a C. It was one I was not familiar with.
So is it cryogenically treated?
No, it's like CM543, some random number. So not a name, but type of steel. And apparently, right now, that steel is primarily being used in $200+ knives. It's like premium, will hold an edge, super tough, but easy to sharpen. I mean, that's always kind of the balance there with a good work knife, is you want it to hold the edge, but the ones that hold the edge really well tend to be hard, and so they're really hard to put a new edge on it. And so you've got to have that balance. And without hesitation, the guy took it straight to this blade for about $80. He got a really great knife. I walked out with a Kershaw as well. This is my new Kershaw. This was $40 originally. Picked it up for $17, and it's one that Walmart's selling for $30. It's got a ceramic ball bearing, and so it opens easily.
No spring assist, right?
No, I thought one of the clerks said, "Here, try this," and I thought for sure that it was spring assisted. And when I closed it, I said, "Man, you can't feel the tension on that at all." He said, "There is no tension. It's all just smooth ball bearing." And so picked this up, really happy with it. I walked out with spending a little enough that my wife didn't kill me. So that was a win.
Excellent.
That was a win. Could be CPM 154. That definitely sounds like it could
420 HC S30V. I'm trying to find what some of these steel materials are.
Boontar Jones likes the pickle pipe.
14C28N. I bet that's it.
Yeah. Boontar, Brother Boontar's here in the house.
Hey,
likes the pickle. We've got David from Western Australia.
He gave me my first pickle bit.
Oh, nice.
So when I bought this one, and every one I've ever purchased since, I always think of Boontar.
Thomas from Sweden. Hello. Got a very wide-reaching group tonight.
Wow.
Or in the morning, or tomorrow morning.
Has Thomas from Sweden seen the movie Eurovision yet with Will Ferrell?
Have you seen Eurovision yet?
I have seen Eurovision.
How was it? Worth the hour and a half?
Yeah, if you got nothing else to do. It's so typical of a Will Ferrell movie that he tries to play that weird character so straight that he doesn't. You don't get a sense that he gets what's funny about it. You know, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's in much of it. It sounds like they took Step Brothers and just got rid of a character.
Really?
You know, because they're going to win Eurovision. It's the life goal to win that big worldwide competition that was won years ago by ABBA. And anyway, watch it. So you tell me what you think.
So what you're saying is, I should watch it and fast forward.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then to me the breakout star of the movie, and though he's not in a lot of scenes, is Pierce Brosnan.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Remington Steele, James Bond, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, heard of him.
Yeah. So he has a good role in it.
That's good. We've been watching. We watched Avatar, the cartoon, not the movie, and have been watching Legend of Korra, the follow-up. And one of the characters is voiced by the one of the male judges in Pitch Perfect. He is also in all of the mockumentary movies. He's a guy with glasses. You're talking about.
Yes.
I don't know his name, but he is in every single one of those, and it is the weirdest experience listening to his voice. The character he plays is exactly the character he always plays, so it's kind of fascinating to see that, to see it in cartoon form.
He was in A Mighty Wind. Did you ever
He's in
see
all
that
of
one?
them. Yeah,
I know, but you see,
yeah. He's in Waiting for.
pretty main character in A Mighty Wind.
I think he's in Waiting for Guffman. He's in Best in Show. He's in. He's not in this. This is Spinal Tap, I don't think, but he's in. What was the other one? Butter was one of the weirder ones in that same crew. Um, so yeah, after Smoky Mountain Knife Works, wound up in Paducah where we did a ton of work on my in-laws' house, preparing it to sell, and so that involved the first day. Isaac and I did mostly just around the house repairs because it's been sitting empty and vacant for over 3 hours for 3 years. 3 hours over 3 years, and so we did. We had to turn the water on. Then discovered that the kitchen sink was leaking, that the bathroom sink was leaking. We had to go down and check all the pipes, make sure the water heater's fine, make sure nothing, none of the drain waste was leaking under the house.
No, wait. In that part of Kentucky, I believe it's a hot water heater.
Yeah.
If you need to replace it, that's what you ask for.
Yes.
What are you picking at on your arm? Did you hurt yourself?
I am still. I'm recovering from death by a billion mosquito bites.
Okay.
And I was just picking at one and picked one open. So I'm not picking anything. I'm just holding the blood in. I don't have all that much left at this point. So just holding it in.
So you guys did some demolition too. I saw some video of demolition. What was that all about?
Yeah, I was going to get to that and try to pull some of that up. So after we did the basic repair stuff, we ended up having to do some things that would need to be done to get the house up for sale. And the house was purchased in, I want to say, the 50s by Allison's grandparents. And they, her grandfather was a do-it-yourselfer, and so he did a lot of work himself. And a lot of stuff. So it has a very old plumbing system, very old electrical system. There is a full addition onto the house, a bathroom and laundry room that was built in the late 80s, I think, as an addition to the house. Then they had a pool for some time. In the pool, they built a deck and then had the pool, but then the pool came out at some point, and the deck was still there, and so this deck has just been rotting for probably 20 years at this point. And so we knew that the deck had to go. We knew that there was some work to be done in a shed, and
that deck's right up against the house too, right? Isn't it?
The deck is right up against the house.
Were there termites?
Probably. There was a little bit of everything. There was a little bit of everything there. So we, they've got a carpeted front patio, and so you can imagine a couple years of not being clean, not being washed. The carpeted patio was covered in mold, and so I'll throw up a couple of fun things here. We had that's terrible. Let's get rid of that.
What were you going to share?
They're having a look at me. Oh, no. Oh, please be patient. Here, we'll go back. Keep talking. Let me, it's not letting me just
all right, well, hey,
do it the way I would want to do it.
If you can see me, I am smoking more of this 1982 fourth generation. And why? Because it's still here. This stuff, I can pick this up now locally for about not quite $7 a tin. And it's good. It's good if you've not tried it. If you like an aromatic, and as we've mentioned, while the taste is not similar to the funky Fruit Loopy German tobacco we get, the cut of the tobacco is a mix of some flake and some ribbon cut, and so it burns really nice.
That's a good segue. Caveman81 asked, "Can I ask you guys for good starting pipe tobacco for a new pipe smoker? I just started my pipe journey. It's the first time joining the live stream. So welcome. First of all, also great beard. I'm working on mine. Good starting tobacco.
Well, let's have everybody jump into the comments.
They have.
I smoke a lot of Lane 1Q. It's the most popular tobacco you can buy, and it's basically the tobacconist's version of um, Captain Black Royal, which is the Captain Black in the blue pouch. So if I have to buy something at a drugstore, that's what I'll buy, Captain Black Royal. But I like trying the tobaccos in the tins, and Lane came out with a version of 1Q in a tin. It's way too expensive considering Lane 1Q is so cheap. But the tinned 1Q is so good that I'd recommend that. And I don't know, it's really the best part of the journey is get yourself a pipe that seems to know what it's doing. Typically a corn cob will take care of that. And then just try tobacco.
A couple people jumping in as Lane 1Q. Austin wants to know where you're picking up that tobacco locally.
North Main Street in High Point, past the Walmart on the north end of town. There is past Harbor Freight. There is a Hardee's on the right, and in the little shopping center right next to that, there's a place with an East Coast wings and a vape shop, and they don't stock much, but they do. They'll have 2 or 3 tins in their cigar humidor, and it's always something interesting, and it's always something very reasonably priced. Now, just past that, they've just opened up the closest Pipe and Pint, and I went in there and purchased a tin of tobacco that I had purchased just a few weeks earlier back at that other vape shop. I paid $4 more for the tin at Pipe and Pint. So I did it just because I wanted to show some support. But if that's what I'm going to smoke, I'm not going to be buying it there.
Yeah. Yeah, how was that one? That's the new one, right?
It's mostly cigars right now.
Yeah.
A lot of empty space. They got a nice back porch, a back patio, and it's owned by a father and son, both with the same name. It's kind of interesting. Met them both. And they also have a little lounge, but it's one you have to be a member of. And you earn points by buying product from them. They keep track of those points. You can redeem them for time in their lounge. Yeah. Again, they're just keeping the riffraff out like me. But you can smoke on the patio anytime.
Okay. Nice. You're lagging a little bit for me, by the way. I don't know if you're connected to Wi-Fi or 4G, 5G.
I am connected to Wi-Fi, but there's also several things running on that Wi-Fi. For example, I am streaming our show so I can see whatever it is you share, which you haven't shared yet.
I'm working on that.
You're still working on it. Okay.
I'm working on that. Got to get it from my phone and my computer. So,
I also wanted to thank the people that sat in with me last week while we watched the premiere of last week's episode, which had been pre-recorded. Thank you guys for keeping me company.
I wasn't there, so thank you for everyone for that. I thanked them while you were away. Those that were here to hear you rant and rave about Shopsmith and magnets and balancing bandsaw blades and whatever other stuff we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Hey, in the meantime, I actually tested that thing out and put out a video on it yesterday.
I told them to check out woodwishes.com for the latest.
It would not be Wood Wishes. It would be My Growth Rings on YouTube.
I've heard it both ways. Well, I'll get around to that when I get around to that. But we did do some demolition. The neighbor to grandparents, he owns a sign shop and owns property next door and next door to that. And so he's somebody that we'll be discussing potentially purchasing the property with. He does some rental properties, but he was kind enough and generous enough to loan us his Bobcat. And so we were able to use that for some demolition, for moving a lot of stuff. There was a lot of overgrowth in the back, their backyard. and we were able to clear that out and move a lot of it over to the perimeter of their yard. And it made quick work of taking down that porch that was rotting. And then they were also last minute came through, loaned us a flatbed trailer pull behind, and we ended up filling Isaac's box truck and filling, so it was bulging this pull behind trailer with basically the deck and all of the wood remnants of that. And we made it in, squeaked in right in the last minute to the local dump on that day. And so that was our last day in town. So that was the fourth trip to the dump that was made. In total, we took 3,500 pounds of material to the dump. And so it was a lot of work that went in. I was working. We're like many businesses. My company is dealing with a slowdown in sales, and I sell to the restaurant industry, and people aren't going out and eating the way they used to, and so I didn't think that unless it was absolutely necessary for me to take extra time off of work, that I should take the time off of work, because there's a lot of work to be done. And so I worked remotely from the hotel, from the dining room, from a Panera one day. Worked remotely while we were there for most of that time, and then helped as I could after hours mostly. So they did just a ton of heavy lifting. So the first day we get there, we're going through and we're going and checking out the hot water heater and checking out some of the other systems. Before the day is up, we've seen 3 brown recluse spiders, which, if you don't know, they are, I think they are more poisonous than black widow spiders. Poisonous or venomous. I can never remember which one, but very, very dangerous. So we had planned to stay at the house on air mattresses and things. Seeing several of these spiders, we decided to bug bomb and spider bomb the whole house, and decided to extend our hotel stay beyond the first day for the rest of the trip. So that was, and we were finding them all over the place, finding dead brown recluse spiders all over. So talk about having heebie-jeebies. We had the heebie-jeebies.
So now you're really jumping, and I don't know if that's, again, my feed, probably.
Yep. Probably.
Did you get your video to work yet?
Nope. Working on it.
I'm going to switch subjects on you.
No, you're not. All right, okay. So we had...
Had you ridden driven a Bobcat before?
I had not. I had not.
What did you think of that?
First for me. I was good. I had been on keto because would not have fit. There's a collar that you have to slip around seatbelt, and that would not have fit on me pre weight loss. And so it was a lot of fun. So I'll show you real quick. We had, I think this one's probably the one. Yeah. So this is, actually, I'm going to go full screen on this. This is, This is work with the Bobcat. And this is, so Isaac's driving that Bobcat. Now, there used to be a deck here. All of the dirt to the right-hand side is completely a deck that was completely ripped up. So it goes into slow mode here in a second. And so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to that point. So we end up having to tie a strap down to help, because the fear was that shed, so this was a changing shed, which was also full of brown recluse spiders. Apparently, when they opened the door to that, there were about 10 of them that they could see on the walls. And so they put two bug bombs in there and left it for a day. But used the Bobcat to rip it down and so yeah, it was a ton of fun. Now, of course, there we go. Full thing falling over, and then ripped it apart and put all this onto the trailer. And so the trailer wound up. The trailer that we took to the dump, we had the 3 piles surrounding the trailer was all us. So took a whole bunch of stuff there. And this is a wide shot of the deck that was taken down. And Allison jumping into the pool that no longer exists. So, and while we were there, we wound up burning the remainder of the deck. Now, it looks a lot closer to the house than it actually was. You can see there that deck is totally gone. And while we were there, so he used to work for a chemical plant nearby, and we've been trying to get benefits for him. And we found this old respirator, and there was some speculation that it may be radioactive. And so they called somebody out, somebody from the energy department, and they actually brought a Geiger counter out and did a test on this. Thankfully, it was not radioactive, so that's good news.
Is that on eBay now?
I think they actually took it. I think that they took that because this is technically like government property.
Oh.
So, and then after all of that, on our way back, we get about an hour. We get about 2.5 hours out from home, and Allison realizes that she has my car keys in her car. Now, Isaac and I are trailing behind them by an hour because we're slow in the box truck, and so she said, "Well, how are we going to get these to you?" My brother-in-law lives about 25 minutes away from us, and we definitely did not want to have to come home. My car was at his house. We didn't want to have to come to our house, pick up the keys before going to his house, and then drive back. At this point, it's about 9 o'clock at night. And so we take a gamble, and she pulls off the side of the road at a rest stop and says, "Okay, this is my location. I've dropped your keys right here next to this rest stop sign. So good luck finding it." So we did some geocaching, some very, very risky geocaching. Thankfully, it paid off. Keys were there. Totally found them, and were able to get home, no problem. But
that's funny.
Yeah. So overall, it was a good trip. Learned to do something I've never done before. In addition to driving the Bobcat, Isaac and I learned how to play Go, the board game. Have you played that?
I have. Back when I was big into Othello, my dad got Go and taught us how to play that. He had played it in Thailand, I guess.
Okay.
Back in the 60s.
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been around a long time.
Yeah.
They say it's the oldest board game. It is one of those that the rules are pretty simple. The execution is incredibly complicated. And so there was a little bit of blind leading the blind because neither one of us had ever played it before.
So without explaining how to play the game, can you describe how it looks for somebody maybe doesn't know what you're talking about? What's the basic layout of it?
Think of a chessboard, but everything is one color, and you play stones you have one color, your opponent has a different color, on the intersections. So instead of playing it in the square, you play it on the intersections, and the objective is to surround the largest territory on the board. And if at any point in time your pieces completely surround your opponent's pieces, you capture those. And so the beginner's board starts on a 9x9 grid. And so that's what Isaac and I were playing on. Medium goes up to 13x13, and professional layer is 19 by 19 board. And to watch some of the games, again, very, very simple in terms of moves, in terms of the actual rules are very simple, but then executing them is incredibly complex. And it's one of those games that the grandmasters that have played 10,000 games will. I saw a quote that somebody asked, "You must really love this game." So no, I hate it. I hate it. It was one of those games that it was only a couple of years ago that they were able to build a AI that could beat a human player. It took a lot longer than it did with chess because of the variability. And so we were interested in finding a board. Went looking around a couple of places that sell board games and could not find one. And having Googled the rules and watched a couple of videos, went to Walmart and bought a couple of bags of Aquarium Marbles and a 12 by 12 inch cutting board.
Now, Aquarium Marbles are like they're mostly round, but they're flat, mushed a little bit.
Flat on the bottom, yeah.
Okay.
And so they just happened to have two colors. They had blue and green. So instead of having black and white, you have blue and green. And there was a $6 12 inch by 12 inch cutting mat, but the 12 inch by 12 inch actually has a border around the outside. And so it actually will work as a 13 by 13 board, but we weren't anywhere near trying that. So we played on a 9 by 9 grid. And so there are versions of this game that sell online. That the cheaper versions are about $30. The more expensive ones are $100 plus. Really beautiful wood carving. We were able to create our own board and play. We played 2 or 3 games every single night that we were there for $11.
Oh, wow.
With craft supplies from Walmart.
That's cheap.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Do you remember ever playing the game Twix? I believe it's TWIX. It's a similar game board, but it has holes drilled in it. So it's sort of like a peg board. And you have these little teeny pegs that you place around the board. And you position them so that you can then span them with these little plastic things that look like a double open end wrench.
I do.
So it's similar. You're basically you're building a fence around the territory with that. You're trying to get basically from one side of the board to the other side of the board, while your opponent's trying to go on the transverse from one end to the other. And so you're trying to build a path, not so much surrounding territory, but getting your way across the board while blocking your opponent at the same time.
I do remember that, yeah.
That's a fun and similar concept, very simple game. How about Owari? Remember playing Owari?
Does not sound familiar.
That is supposed to be one of the oldest games ever known, where the way the game board is now, that you can buy it, it's got a plastic thing that has these little scoops all the way around.
Okay.
Like on a clock dial.
Oh, like Macala?
Same game. Same game. Yeah. Yes, and you fill it with like 4. Each one gets 4 rocks, and you pick up the rocks and you start placing them in the holes, and you can capture them if there are 2 or 3 left. Just taught your nephews how to play that the other day. They were enjoying that.
That's awesome.
It's one of those things, just like Othello, that's not difficult to learn.
Right.
But there's a lot of strategy to that simple game.
Now, what's interesting with that is that there are different variants on how to play, and so you always have to set the ground rules when you're playing with somebody new, because you never know. Do they if they land in an empty space, do you collect the beads from your opponent's side? If they land in the main chamber, do they get to go again? Do they a lot of the kids would play where they keep going. If they land in one that has beads in it, they pick those up and they keep going all the way around the board until they land in one empty. Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we play a simpler version. We play the version that allows me to beat them and move on as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, that one's good. Austin asks, have you guys ever tried to play chess?
Oh yeah.
Yes. So we don't play chess anymore. He quit that when I was like 8, 10.
And
I
why?
don't
And
know.
why? And why did I quit?
Because I beat you, and
I couldn't beat
that
him.
was
I
when
couldn't beat him anymore.
that's when it stopped being fun. Um, and yeah, so chess was another game that Isaac and I played as well. We played that. It's one that we enjoy. We recently got a online. I got an online game called Tabletop Simulator, and it is just that. It simulates a three-dimensional tabletop that allows you to then play any game that you could play in a real-life tabletop on that game. So you can play chess, checkers, Chinese checkers, Go, Othello, whatever. It's there, and the community builds games for it. One of the very first games Isaac and I was drawn to was Portal Chess. Portal Chess. And so Portal Chess combines chess and the game Portal. Portal is a game where it's a video game where you can create two portals, and anything that passes through one side exits out the other. So they're connected.
Like playing Asteroids.
Yes, it's exactly like playing Asteroids, except you get to dictate where the entry and exit point are.
Okay.
So Portal Chess, it's like a chessboard and a half in length. You have your normal chess pieces in the normal positioning, but then behind your important pieces is another row of pawns, and those pawns move backwards.
Oh, wow.
And they move backwards, and once they hit the edge, it loops around to the opponent's edge, and so you can keep advancing from behind.
So what cake is a lie, Moontar?
It's a quote from the game Portal.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So something I learned about myself. I know that I'm dyslexic. I didn't realize how much that played into my hatred for most games. When I was out in Denver on a trip and spent a lot of time with my parents play a lot of games. And I tried to force myself to enjoy the games they played, and tried to figure out why I didn't enjoy them, and realized that, you know what, I can't, like we were playing, what is that game, Chicken Foot with dominoes. I could not see patterns. I had all my dominoes in front of me, and I just couldn't see it. And my sister came and joined us, and they took all the dominoes and they rotated them around 90 degrees. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody gave me a magic decoder ring. It's like all of a sudden I'm seeing everything clearly, and I don't know what it is, but it's sort of like when a PowerPoint slide has a bunch of bullets on it, I start reading from the bottom right. And I don't know why, I just do. I always start at the bottom. And so it's why I encourage people in presentations, don't put a bunch of bullets up unless you intend, to have your audience distracted by the bullets that are on the screen.
Yeah.
So I can play those spatial games, Go and Othello and in those games, but start throwing in numbers and face cards and things like that, and it just messes with my head. I can't. I just can't see the patterns.
Yeah. The games that we most like to play, you probably would really, really hate, because they have a lot of complexity, and that complexity is with like information on cards, and cards do certain things and relate to each other in specific ways.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Those are some of our favorite games to play. But Go was a lot of fun, and I think I may. Isaac and I talked about maybe making it a project for his channel, making a board, and I was thinking I might 3D print some bead holders. Although I don't know how many beads you have to have for a full board. I think it's a lot. I think I probably don't have enough.
But that would be really neat to build a board with it, because he could make saw curves and put veneer into the curves, and that'd be neat.
Yeah, could be done pretty either simply or expansively.
So speaking of that bandsaw tool, and this will make sense here in just a second, it didn't work with my Shopsmith bandsaw as I thought it might not. And the reason is the Shopsmith bandsaw is built unlike any other bandsaw on the planet, which is part of what makes it superior, in my opinion. and but it's a low tension bandsaw, so you can't use that device as it's designed to adjust the tension on the Shopsmith bandsaw. So I was in a conversation back and forth with the owner of the company, and today he sent me a message. He is 3D printing a new one of those combs that he believes will allow it to adjust for the Shopsmith bandsaw. So,
interesting.
Perfect solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to make it work by pushing the little screw way beyond what the little setting gauges were designed to adjust to, and got to work. But yes, I did actually post that video. I started shooting a video, and that's when I realized it failed, and so I stopped that video and shared it with the owner of the company and said, "All right, we need to figure something out here," and then I eventually did post a video with some conclusions. Hey, I don't know if I've shown you this. Did I show you this?
Oh, you totally froze. Oh, no. You didn't.
Yeah. So I wanted a new pellet gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my old Daisy is dead. I guess theoretically I can send it back to Daisy and they'll do something with it. Just have never gotten around to doing that. And I was looking around and found this one at Farm and Fleet and thought it was kind of interesting. And unlike the Daisy that you have to...
You mean a Farm and Fleet was still a thing? Where is there Farm and Fleet?
No, I'm sorry, Tractor Supply, TSC.
Oh, TSC. Gotcha.
Yeah. To me, those are synonymous.
That's where I buy all of my castration rings.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. And I was looking at these, and that Daisy that I had required you to pump it. So to get full power, it takes 10 pumps, very slow. This one,
CO2.
you crack it once right here in the middle, and that loads an air spring. And this, with just one cock, is more powerful than that Daisy was. So I think it's 1,200 feet a minute, or I'm sorry, 1,200 feet a second.
Yeah.
And now here's the problem. The problem is it takes every muscle in my body, and I have to crack this thing across my knee, which my surgeon would love to hear. There we go.
Yeah.
And then you load a single pellet in here, and Bob's your uncle. But we took this over to my brother-in-law David's house, and we were shooting cans in the backyard, and David went way out to the back of his lot and hung one can from a tree, and I'm the only one that could hit that. He also had a pump up air rifle and couldn't get anywhere close to it, and this thing would send that can flying. It was fun.
I bet.
Now I just need a place I can play with it because, you know, here, as Austin knows, my backyard is a busy state route, and I imagine I'd get some attention.
Yeah.
If I'm out back shooting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, not really a great spot for that. Need to figure out a way to rig something up to be able to cock it and load it.
I suspect it'll loosen up over time. And also getting into the habit of grabbing it from the extreme ends so I get some leverage over it.
I'm sure that there's some inspiration to be found on the Slingshot channel.
Oh, no doubt.
How to do that.
No doubt. Jorg will show me how it's done.
Yeah, although not with that, because can't have firearms.
No.
Can't have actual firearms. You can have things that slingshot flaming blades, but
saw blades.
Yeah, that's right. But wouldn't want to have a pellet gun. Yeah.
That is such a fun channel, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Have you seen the recent collabs with he sent out versions of his whatever it's called, the Legolas bow for. So he sent out. Are you familiar with the Legolas bow?
I'm not sure. Is it the one that doesn't have a bow?
So yeah, no. So he designed what he believes could have been an actual medieval repeater or magazine style loader for a traditional bow. Okay. And so it's basically a handle a handle grip with I don't know if they load from the top, but you can basically slide 5 arrows in, and then there's another grip here that is tied to the string, and so as you pull back, it pulls
Drop
the
an arrow.
string back and knocks the arrow, and then you release, and you can basically just go
Yes.
click, 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 click.
You and
5
I
in a
were
row.
watching that. Yes, that I have seen.
Yeah.
And different people were doing different mods to it, right? 3D printing
Yeah,
pieces
so
and
I was
parts.
showing you a guy that had 3D printed his own version of that. Well, what he's doing now is he's actually sent versions of that out to people that do medieval, like medieval historians, people that do medieval accurate longbow archery, and so he's sending it out to people to see. Would it be possible? Is this something that could have been used historically? And if so, how would it have been used? And if it was, excuse me, was something that was created then, what would the overall impact have been? Could this be a device that could have changed the tide of war in some instances? And so it's fascinating to see these guys that first of all are looking at from just a functional standpoint. Is there anything on here that would be modern or that would be outside of the scope of what could have been done? Then
Right.
one of the guys did it with a 110-pound medieval longbow. And is it accurate? Is it faster than if he was loading it by himself? And then how would it have been used? Would it be a long archer's weapon of choice, or would it be like frontline, untrained infantry kind of weapon?
Right. Well,
Um,
obviously, it didn't get used. Otherwise, it would have been the dominant weapon that would have been used. I
well,
mean, in wartime, you tend to adopt the greatest technology, the technology that is the most deadly. However, that wasn't true. Usually not true at the start of a war. It wasn't true in the Civil War because there were actually breech loading guns early on that did not get used. So instead of being able to lay down behind a fallen tree and load from the back of the rifle, they had to stand up and load it from the end of the muzzle. And that was bad planning because there had already been breech loading guns invented at that time.
mhm.
So, yeah, that's interesting. But like I said, if it had been used, I would imagine it would have dominated.
Yeah.
If you can make arrows fast enough.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, they for the larger bows, what they were finding is that it probably would take still somebody with a certain level of skill, and it would increase their skill level. And so, there was some doubt about if you put it in the hands of every infantryman, but your top archers maybe if what you needed was some very fast volleys of arrows. For accuracy, they probably would not have used it. So it's just very interesting to see, the theoretical of what could have been. So that whole thing is that saga with that bow that he has designed, or that function that he's designed, is continuing on.
So speaking of good YouTube channels, there is a YouTube channel I would love to plug. If you guys don't watch This Old Tony, I highly recommend you check out This Old Tony. He is a machinist who makes even the most mundane operation very interesting and entertaining. And he's funny. The dad humor is actually on point. And I discovered him as a result of this is sort of a drawn out thing. Jimmy DiResta, who is a very popular YouTuber maker, had a French chef visit him, and in his shop in New York City, he made for this French chef Alex a pizza cutter out of 2 saw blades. So he took 2 hand saws and welded them together so that the handles were coming up at an angle, and then he machined it into a big curved blade, so you would rock it through a pizza. Right.
I've not seen that. Is that
so
new?
that introduced me then to Alex, who is the chef,
I
who
love
I
Alex.
also found very interesting on his channel. I think it's like cooking
French
with
guy
Alex.
cooking.
Yeah, French.
Well, actually,
And,
it's changed recently.
and then He bought a direct from China $100 pasta maker, and it was just garbage. And he connected with Tony, who he said, "Look, I'd like to send this to you. Would you be able to, repair or modify this thing to make it functional?" And Tony, not knowing who this guy is, ends up sending Alex back what is basically a complete reproduction, but in high quality material. And Tony just machined it all from aluminum and CNC'd some logos and things on it. So that took me over to Tony's channel, and it is so entertaining. Really, really like it. Like I said, you'll see a title of video, and it's like something about making springs. Who needs to watch a video about how to make springs? Watch the video about how to make springs. It's very entertaining, and it's just so well done. This old Tony.
That's one I'm not familiar with. I love Alex, and you're right. He has just recently changed his name to just Alex. It used to be French Guy Cooking. If you search for French Guy Cooking, he'll be the first one that shows up.
Yeah,
and he is a very
experimental.
He reminds me of Casey Neistat in that his videos are very formulaic, in that they follow a similar format and structure. Even though it doesn't appear that way on the surface of it, but there's always some introduction of an idea, an intro, a conflict, rising action, falling action, in every single one of them.
I want to make the perfect croissant. And he explores what makes a croissant perfect, and how can I get all those layers. And
there's almost always 3 or 4 or more videos in a series.
Yes.
Did you see recently where he was hacking his home oven?
Yes.
To be able to bake a pizza?
Yeah, now somebody else had done that 10 years ago. It did exactly the same thing, where basically, the guy that did it 10 years ago, he disabled the lock that automatically locks when you go into self-cleaning mode. And so he cooks on self-cleaning mode, where Alex bypassed the controller and it was able to get like 900 degrees or something like that.
On the one in his shop, on the one in his home, he broke the lock. So he did the same. He did the same thing during while he was still quarantined from his shop. Very, very interesting. Yeah, the other one he actually disassembled and did some coding and stuff. So
throw a Raspberry Pi in there for good measure.
Probably. Probably.
Raspberry Pi. So I did have a question for you, and then for the folks in the chat. I got to thinking today while I was sitting here sweating, doing that webinar, that if I could wave a magic wand and have my ideal work environment, what would that be? Would I like being here if it were air conditioned? Would I rather be inside the house and just have a space that looks like an office or a studio? Would I rather work in my office and be surrounded by coworkers? I was a salesman that was out on the road all the time. Would I rather just be a road warrior and spend time on the road? And that was an interesting thought experiment today. And I'm curious about you. What is your ideal work environment, boy?
I don't know. I think it depends on what's going on. I think that what I've found is that it's probably close to what it was before. Working in an office with the ability to grab a couple of people into a room and have a big whiteboard and really hash stuff out, because that collaborative approach is it feels like it's more efficient in person than virtually. In general, feels like it just takes a lot more time. But I think that with a couple of tweaks to my workspace here, it could be pretty close to ideal. The one thing I really didn't realize how much I appreciated about my office is having a standing desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a combination of the fact that I had a standing desk, and at work I have a really nice chair, and here I'm using a all metal chair all the time, which I don't mind, except that it would be nice to be able to stretch. And so I think it's a combination of the two. It makes me miss that. But with that, this has not been bad. This has not been bad. I mean, having something that is set up for quick and easy video, quick and easy audio, is a must-have. And I certainly miss the collaborative approach. But beyond that, I mean, like beyond the whiteboard and having those types of meetings, my day-to-day hasn't changed all that much from what it was. So, what about you?
Well, my day-to-day has changed dramatically. I don't travel. What was funny was the other day, my oldest grandson sat down next to me while I was working on something. He said, "What you working on?" And I showed him. I said, "Oh, this is one of my blogs where I write some stuff about shopsmith tools." And he asked me to kind of show him what that was. He didn't know what a blog was. So I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through posts that span 12 years or more. And he at one point he said, "When do you do this?" He didn't know I did it, and saw the volume of what was there, and said, "When do you do this?" I said, "Well, it's funny because I usually don't ever do that here. I'll do this in a hotel room when I'm away from home." And the fact that it's been 3 months since I've traveled on a business trip and been stuck in a hotel room, he saw me doing something that normally doesn't distract from the family.
Yeah.
So for me, the ideal work environment is variety. And I'm with you on the idea of if you've got a task you're performing, I like some degree of collaboration. I like being able to bring in the people that I want to bring in, and then getting away from those people, after I get what I need, where it's less fun to be a cog on someone else's wheel. Hey, can you help us out with this aspect of this project? So like this last week, I was asked to do a voiceover on someone else's video. So I had no involvement in the video production, just do this voiceover. And I didn't like that. I don't work well with a script, go back to dyslexia, right? And there was a point where I had to re-record something because I misspoke. And I said it with great confidence, and I said the wrong thing. And fortunately for me, I had actually recorded it a couple times, and one version, it was correct. So I didn't have to re-record it. I just sent a different edit.
Yeah.
But I would much rather have been the guy that just does that whole thing from start to finish, shoot the video, write the script, say the script that I'm not reading because I know it.
Right.
And so it doesn't really answer the work environment question, but that's sort of the work style. I just need that variety. It helps me be productive, having some distractions.
Yeah, I was working out of a hotel lobby for 3 days last week and worked out of a Panera for 1 day. And there wasn't much difference really from working here or from working in my office, in terms of what work got done, in terms of, how it felt. And so, now I will say the one thing that certainly was a little bit disappointing is, we stayed in a hotel 1 day. We had planned to stay in the house the rest of the time, found the brown recluse spiders, and decided to stay in the hotel the remainder of the trip. Excuse me. And so to make that happen, it meant using all of my accrued travel points for one of the hotel chains, and there was definitely a twinge of I may never see these again. I may never get travel days, free hotel stays again. It may not happen. With events and things, being locked down. Now, I did get invited to an event in February, so we had to make the decision based off of either the event will be canceled or it'll be fine and it'll go through. And so let's make the decision. Is it worth going to? But I gave an hour-long presentation earlier this year and was asked to come back and give an hour-and-a-half long presentation next year. So they had a spot to fill and they reached out. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. As soon as I start to tell the story, you're going to worry that I'm going to say something I shouldn't. I won't. Okay. I know not to say what I shouldn't. A week or so ago, a bro worker that actually spent a lunch chatting with Seth about hiring at one time. He and I were talking about Seth's work, and I made a mention about something on their website. So we jumped on their website. Seth, later that evening, we happened to see each other, says, "Oh, by the way, what were you doing on our website?" What do you mean, what was I doing? I was on your website. So he tells me, yes, we have this software that tells us who visits from what IP address and tells you how long I spend on your site or how many things I look at, or what kind of analytics does it tell you about a visitor?
So we currently don't even pay for it. Just the free version tells us what company someone has visited from, the date and time that they visited, and number of pages that they visited. If you pay, and it's not all that expensive to pay for it, if you pay for it, you can see individuals that have visited. So if you and your coworker were both visiting from different computers, it would identify you as person A and person B, what exact pages that person went to, and how long they spent on each of those pages. And the paid version also connects with LinkedIn so that you can, and the paid version also tells you how many people are in the organization, and then on LinkedIn it will tell you what the likely person was, who the likely person was, or what their job title was based off of their visit. And so what it allows you to do is, if you're paying for it, it allows you to see, somebody from this company visited my site. I want to send them a LinkedIn message, and the way we're approaching it is we're prompting, because it is out of the blue, we're prompting with a free giveaway, a free download of something, a high value piece of marketing material that we put together. That's not a sales item, but is, this may be of interest to you, and we'd love to discuss if you have any needs in the future.
How do you not creep them out?
Don't know. Try not to. Try not to. So right now, because we're not paying for it, we're having to put in a little bit extra legwork. But we will identify. We can identify from just the basic information. We can identify what business they have visited from. From there, knowing our customer, we can extrapolate that in an organization of 1,000 people, there are only 3 people in the organization that are likely to have visited our website, because of those are the only 3 people that would actually be looking for the stuff that we have.
So the head of accounting is not looking for grease separators.
That's right. We're looking for a head of maintenance, VP of maintenance, somebody in charge of facilities, right?
Yeah.
And so if we can find the VP of facilities at such and such company, then there's a pretty good chance that that's the person that was visiting our site. And so we'll cold email them a resource and say, hey, here's a resource on top five considerations when choosing a new grease interceptor, and just would love to set up a webinar or whatever with you. And so for us, if, let's say, we also have 3 websites, so the resource is unique to which website they were visiting and what type of customer segment they are, right? So for us, if they're a government official, we're sending them a resource related to their job and their needs. If they're coming from an institution, we're speaking to the problems that institutional kitchens have. If they're a architecture firm, we get a lot of architecture firms in, we'll send them that information. And so all of that is free. It's terrifying.
That is terrifying. But what's interesting about it, if you pick the right person, it may not even be the person who visited your site. It may be the person who sent that person to visit your site.
Yes.
The influencer or the decision maker ultimately.
Or somebody else in the sphere of that person's sphere of influence.
Yeah.
And so, we're thinking like Seth Godin and some of those others. We're trying to take a add genuine value approach. We know it's creepy. We know that it's a lot of people at this point aren't incredibly surprised because many of us believe our phones are listening to us at all times anyway. And so,
by the way, you know who made this watch, son?
China.
Not just China.
Yeah, Huawei.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I don't know. You probably didn't receive anything because I don't know that they would take you out. But
we didn't receive anything.
But your head of facilities or somebody may have received something.
So again, I'm not going to say the name, but Seth received a message from an organization that all of us would know and would probably love to hand deliver some literature for, which was pretty cool.
I think I can share that. I didn't get anything that said that I couldn't share that. We have one of our. I'll say this. I know for certain, and I've not been involved with any of these projects or any of these things. We have products. Some of our products are in facilities owned and operated by Google, Apple, Bad Robot Productions, which is J.J. Abrams production company. And an order came in recently for a repair part for one of our products at Skywalker Ranch. It showed up through this program as, what was it? Lucasfilm. It showed up as Lucasfilm. So I get an email that says Lucasfilm has visited your website, and they ordered a repair part. They have apparently a catering facility there, and I mentioned it to some of my coworkers, and it's known that yes, they have one of our products, and they were buying a replacement part. And so I offered to hand deliver it. I said, "Is that a service that we're offering now, please?"
So, in my job, I was a quarter of a mile from there, and I was in a cabinet shop who only does work for them.
Wow.
And the owner of this shop, like 30 years ago, was called out to do work at George Lucas's personal property, and apparently did such a great job that they pulled him aside and said, "We'll keep you busy." And it's not that he refuses work from anyone else; he just gets so much work from them. Yeah. And that was pretty cool to see some of the pictures of the things that they've done. Now, both Seth and I have watched on. We got something going on. On Netflix, there's a series called Chef, and it was inspired from the movie Chef. And the star of the movie is, and I can never remember his name. What's his name, boy?
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, who is not just an actor, but also a writer and producer and director. And they did an episode from Skywalker Ranch and from that kitchen, which is like just a commercial, almost a catering business, because they can cater to whatever activities are going on there. Pretty cool episode. In fact, they went into the gardens there and picked the fresh vegetables that they then made into the meal that they were serving the workers, because they have this organic garden.
That's pretty cool.
Neat. I don't know. Anybody in the comment section, do you have any thoughts on what would be your ideal work condition? I'm curious to know from you. I don't know. I haven't checked. Did anybody say anything about that?
Yeah, we got in trouble. We got in trouble, but we'll go up. WKR Piper in Cincinnati, where pipe smoking is allowed in a leisurely environment. Oh,
Oh,
wait, I
yes.
already have that.
I had that at one time. I used to smoke in a retail store when I worked for Shopsmith.
Hmm.
And then I was there when they stopped allowing smoking.
Stephen Skip Kane, Skip's ideal work environment on the water. Boat work, not submarine, but on top of the water, Yeah. Submarine work would be an interesting one.
Well, I've got a brother-in-law. You've got an uncle that
I do have an uncle.
was on a sub for a number of years, and that was not a pleasant experience. But he finished up his career on board the Theodore Roosevelt, which is an aircraft carrier, which we got the ride on, right, boy?
That's neat.
Really cool.
Not only ride on, but walk through and be on the deck of while planes were landing and taking off. That's crazy.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Austin said, ideal work environment would be a studio with a microphone. I'd thoroughly enjoy having a talk radio show / podcast where I could have guests and we could sip the spirits and premium tobacco. Good combo.
That would be. Why aren't you doing that?
That's exactly right. It's a good question, Austin. If you haven't discovered Anchor yet, ANCHOR, Anchor, check it out. It's the easiest solution to creating and starting a podcast I've ever seen. Check it out. Yeah, we got in trouble with Steph and Skip. If you're going to ask the audience a question, not even read comments, what's the point of being live? We're out. Sorry.
Oh,
so I see you guys go. But we're caught up in the middle of it. Getting around to it eventually. WKR Piper in Cincinnati also said that the Ohio Pipe Show has been canceled.
Well, not a surprise.
It's not. It's not.
I don't know if you guys follow Dave Allen, and his channel is Maple City Pipes, Maple City Pipe channel, Maple City Pipe podcast. He has a podcast that he does and has his own channel. And it's kind of interesting. The approach that he's taking is kind of like what you're describing. He's created a show, and that show, puts out very short, probably no longer than maybe 15-minute podcast.
We should try that sometime.
A short one? That's not in our DNA, son. That goes back to what I said earlier. If I were doing this alone, if you were doing this alone, and you would turn the camera on just when you have a topic that you want to discuss, you could discuss it in 10 minutes and be done. My woodworking channel,
woodwishes.com.
Surprisingly short videos for me.
That is surprising.
And what's kind of interesting to see is what percentage of them get watched, or what percentage of each video is watched by each viewer.
Yeah.
Much higher percentage than, well, let's just say, channel that you and I might share.
I suspect you still get complaints about them being twice as long as they need to be.
No, I haven't yet.
Let me get on that.
Well, okay. No, that's not true. Yeah, I have had a comment or two, and my pat answer to that is, you're new here.
Yeah, you should check out the other channel that I might or might not share with somebody else.
Yeah, if you think I can waste 10 minutes of your life, just wait till you see what we can do on Mark Whitman's Breakfast Club.
That's right.
Well, let's not waste much more time then.
Agreed.
You got anything going on this week that worth noting? Anything we can look forward to hearing about next week?
Nope. Hopefully it's back to mostly normal this week. Getting back into routine of being home. So
next week I'm back to 40 hours.
Are you? Congratulations.
Yep. I've been 32 hours for the last couple months, and going back to full time. When your salary though, I can't turn it off.
No.
On the days that I'm off, I'm replying to emails and taking phone calls and things. And that doesn't bother me. No one's expecting it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I took off last Friday because I my help was needed at the house, and I reserved the right to take off time if I was needed, and I did. And but until 9 o'clock, was responding to emails and calling people because received several messages overnight from European distributors and a couple of questions that came. These are direct relationships I have with some of these guys,
Uh,
and I'm not gonna ignore them for the weekend, and also not going to leave them hanging.
yep.
And so that was yeah, certainly, definitely know that. In fact, when we get off here, I've got some work I probably will get around to today. That in preparation for a morning meeting, and want to be on top of that. So,
All right. Well,
all right,
the rest of you check out This Old Tony.
we got a couple more questions. Austin asked if you guys tried straight razor shaving. Recently, I have tried not shaving at all. Never done straight razor.
No.
But I do pretty much exclusively safety razor shaving now, with a brush and soap when I shave.
And I explored that for a time, and in fact, I forget how I mentioned it, but I mentioned it somewhere on Facebook, and my uncle reached out to me and he said, I was given a safety razor by my grandparents, his mom and dad, right as he was going into the Army. And he was, I don't know, 18, 19 years old. And the Army gave him the razor that they expected him to use. And so he had this brand new Gillette. I forget what it is. It's a really nice razor. And he sent it to me in the box and everything. So this thing is, 50 years old and pristine. And so if I was ever going to get a good shaving experience with a safety razor, that was going to be it. I did not have a good shaving experience with the safety razor, and so I didn't stick with that for long. Now we use, or I use, razors made by a company called Dorco. Horrible name, great razors, and they are the largest razor manufacturer outside of the United States. They're in South Korea, and they make razors for use all over the world, and very reasonable price razors. And I just got sick and tired of having to take out a mortgage to get replacement blades for my Gillette. Nothing wrong with my Gillette razors. They work just fine, but I just couldn't stand paying the money. And been very pleased with Dorco. It's been how many years now, Seth?
Years.
Well,
15,
we discovered that because we started buying the Dollar Shave Club razor, and they had 3 different levels of razor, and their premium razor, it turned out, was a Dorco razor, just private labeled for them. And we found out we could buy it direct for about half the price of what the Dollar Shave Club was charging.
Yeah, I when I shave with a traditional Gillette style, that's what I'll use. I probably half the time that I shave with a safety razor, it's a Dorco blade. So I've got a buddy who got really deep down the shaving rabbit hole, and onto shaving subreddits and safety razors, and so he's a guy that has been part of, just like with pipes and tobacco and other stuff, part of like trading clubs, and so he often gives me his the extras that he'll get, and so I've got all sorts of different types of shaving soaps and a couple of razors, and there are as many brands of safety razors as there are brands of pipe, and so I've got probably 5 or 6 different brands in there, and he has strong opinions about which is the best, and I just pick one that's sharp.
Yeah, German blades and Israeli blades, and yeah, they're from everywhere.
Yes, yeah, all over the place. So I have recently gone the other path, and just for the very first time ever got some beard balm, and I hate it. I'm gonna try it. I've tried it 2 days now, and like that it does help kind of. Right now everything is very out. It's got very curly hair, and it kind of explodes outward. The beard balm is it's like rubbing chapstick. It's like rubbing Vaseline on your face.
No.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is.
Uh,
It's basically beeswax. It's basically Vaseline, and it's all over.
no. Have you tried oils?
I have beard oil. I've used that some, and that's actually nice because it is softening. And it
Yeah.
softens. But the beard balm is more like hair gel. It's designed to be more like hair gel, except it's not. So there's beard butter, which is moisturizer, and then there's beard balm, which is sticky. And I don't care for it. I don't care for it.
I mean, that is how you care for your dreadlocks, right? You put the beeswax
Yeah,
in your dreads.
yeah. What website, WK Piper, talking about? Asked, will you put the website up?
Which,
Uh,
Dorco?
oh, yeah, we could do that, probably.
Well, actually, no. Dorco, they closed their U.S. operations and gave full distribution to Amazon.
Hmm.
So,
You
Amazon.
can get them from Amazon. And they're
Yeah.
pretty, still cheaper than Gillette and
Oh, yeah.
Dollar
Yeah,
Shave
great.
Club.
Great parts.
Brother Bruntard's been up all night. He said, good to see you guys. And been up since yesterday, so I'll be heading to bed after this.
Wow. Night, Boontar. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Austin said using a multi-blade razor, I get torn up. I'm looking to get more into premium shaving. I cannot recommend getting just a cheap dish and soap and brush set enough. I don't know what it is. I really like that. I know there are really great tutorials online. I find I enjoy that shaving with that and a safety razor much more than shaving with any of the gels and stuff I've used in the past, and never have had a problem with getting torn up. It's always very smooth on the shave, and don't have near the razor burn. Even when I'm, even after I've let it grow out a little bit, never have let it grow out quite this much. But will even after shaving, having not shaved in a long time, it's just not as bad in my experience.
I shave in the shower with the Dorco razor and Shave Secret shave oil. So just oil, a couple drops of oil, and that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm shaving very little hair. I don't have a whole lot going on the sides there.
If you ever have really bad razor burn, you can use deodorant and basically treat deodorant as an aftershave, and run just some deodorant over your face. If you get unscented, it's better, but just over wherever you've got sensitive skin, and it will help seal up the pores.
Is that zinc, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's an antiperspirant, though, not deodorant.
yes, probably. I'm not sure. All of my deodorants are antiperspirants. In my mind, they're one and the same, but I know they're not.
Mm-hmm. No, they're not.
I don't know. That's a old. A gymnast told me that they would use that for shaving areas where they would otherwise not.
Gotcha.
That it helps with razor burn in sensitive areas. And the times that I shaved my head, I did that, and it no razor burn at all.
Crazy. All right, hey guys, thank you for joining us. And Steph, sorry we ran you off. If you watch the end of this video in the as a recording, you'll know we miss you, and we're sorry that we abandoned you like that. Thanks y'all for joining us, and make it a great week.
See you guys.
Good to see you, boy.